Welcome in, everybody, to Stark Media High School Football Weekly and New Digs again this week. We're here at Harmons Pub. Great little place here in Stark County inside of Canton City. Make sure you get out here, Harmons Pub. We're going to be talking about them more today as we roll through this episode. Episode 5 already, buddy. I know you got something special for episode 5, right?
Yeah, well, you introduce your teammates, brother.
I want to get right to it, man, because this can be special.
It is special. I brought the treat pillow, right, kind of celebrating the because my wife watched show 4, and then, I even put it up on the big TV, and she goes, "You're really short sitting next to TJ." I said, it don't matter if I sit next to TJ, next to Rod, next to Jeff. I mean, vertically challenged, but I brought my pillow today.
Nice.
So we're going to put that right there.
We squished him in a little bit last week.
Now, Jeff, did you...
Did we get a booster seat over here?
Jeff, did you
Really?
you left the car seat in your vehicle, right?
Yeah, I got a car seat for him, so don't fall out of that.
See there? Look,
out of that high chair.
Look, I'm almost
get the
even.
high chair.
Now we're all proportional here
That's
inside
right.
of Harmons Pub. So
All
it's
right.
good. It's good.
Let's
viewing.
rock.
It's a good
We are ready
viewing
now.
pleasure for everybody. So welcome in. I'm TJ Downing, joined by Jim Bostic, Rod Strata, and Jeff Tyler. And as we break down Stark County High School football from Week 6, going into Week 7 now, guys, we'll get right into it. Week 6, I'll tell you what, McKinley at Hoover is it was something special. As we know, we welcomed in your new partner Dave Bircher, longtime coach there alongside Don Hertler Jr. We're going to get a chance to hear from him here in just a little bit. He's joining us. He's getting warmed up over there behind us at the bar. He'll be ready to go. He'll be primed and ready to go. But as we look inside of the Federal League and what kind of played out there, McKinley able to handle business. And now setting up a first-place Federal League matchup with Lake this week. We'll be out there for you. You'll be able to get it on starkmedia.tkdssports.com. I'll be out there with Mark Milano. But tell us a little bit about the action out there, partner.
I'll tell you what, guys. You're right, TJ. It was electric, right? 37-28 is our final score. And I know we talked last week, right, about that when we talked about St. Ed's and the Massillon game, how the score kind of wasn't indicative. Close, but yet Massillon controlled. This game was that close. It was very exciting. I mean, at the very end, 4 minutes left, Hoover had a chance to win the game. In our pregame, the McNeill and Son pregame show, Dave, your new partner there, he talked about that the Hoover defense just had to keep it close. If they could keep it close, they'd be in the game. And daggum, they did, man. It was exciting. On that last drive, again, Hoover had the ball, and they were driving. Penalty set them back, right? And then, of course, McKinley drove down. Keaton Rohde hits the field goal, seals the deal. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you what, 37-28. Coach Baum can't be overly displeased. And David pointed out, really kind of a younger Hoover team.
Yeah.
But again, McKinley just has so many weapons that are out there. Also very interesting, we always talk about special teams. Koskovich on the kickoffs, right? It was very interesting to me. Not you guys in the game. Every kickoff was kicked short. Everyone. He was not going to let the 3 deep return men have a chance, to bring that ball back. So very wise on Coach's part. It was interesting. Nino Hill did not start the game. Yep. We didn't see Nino until about midway through the second quarter. But I'm going to tell you what, guys, Stephon Thomas, 2 back-to-back 100-yard games. That little guy, and again, he's not little, but I mean in comparison, he hits
that
the
big
hole.
Offensive line.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what, guys, he hits the hole. He comes hard. I mean, it's 9 yards. It's 10 yards. And off he goes. Keaton Rohde did exactly what he's done all season. 3 touchdown passes, kicks that game-winning field goal, spread the ball around. Overall finished 13-19, 162 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Wow.
He was, our Hilscher Clarke Electric Player of the game.
To me, that's great. Coming off
And,
last week where he struggled, and we talked about it in our show last week that, it was no surprise he had a rough game, but for him to bounce back and do that, and then we know what his skills are at the kicking game is pretty darn good.
Yeah, Rod, when you think about big offensive linemen, Dior Gardner and Caleb Edwards from McKinley, big guys like we are, how much of a challenge does that present to linebackers when you have a smaller running back in there? You got a big target like Nino Hill where those guys can actually see him behind those big guys, but you mix in somebody a little bit smaller who can kind of hide behind there. By the time they hit the hole, you haven't seen them, and you're only getting one hand on them, and you're not bringing them down.
Right, and especially if you get out there and you put a decent block on them, maybe you're not low if you're standing up a little more, they can't see them, right? And a lot of times what they'll do, that running back will either, bounce right or bounce left. Now, he can't see either very well, right? So that's where it's really important for the offensive linemen, the big guys, to not only block but to create space for the smaller running backs so they they have visibility as well. It works both ways.
And as we talk about as offensive linemen staying square to the line of scrimmage, giving your back a chance to go either left or right. When you wall somebody off, you're only giving them one opportunity to go that direction, and you can kind of limit some opportunities there. But again, high school football presented by Hilscher Clarke Electric Company and the Eagles FOE 190 in downtown Massillon. We'll talk about some more of our partners as we roll through here today. Jackson at Lake, you guys were out there, man. Had Sweet Feet Pete in the press box.
Yeah, we did.
Rolling alongside you guys.
And, he was with us.
When you talk about the kicking game, there was another one that came up. Lake able to get it done. I believe Mr. Dutton missed a couple of them, but it was the defense for Lake that really sealed the deal.
It was. And Kelton, and we talked about it in the booth, that Kelton's, one of the best, if not the best, kicker in the county. Struggled. He had a couple wide rights and overcompensated, hooked one. So the kick, like you said about the score not being indicative, Lake really, they won 19-7, but it really could have been a 40-7 ball game.
Right.
It really could have been. They got down in the red zone, wasn't able to punch it through, missed some timely stuff. But the biggest surprise for me, it's not a surprise to see Lake and that front seven, especially those linebacker cores, come up and do what they did with. Would they have 9 or 10 sacks? 10 sacks.
Yeah, Eckerman got sacked 10 times.
Incredible. The biggest surprise for me was knowing what Jackson can do against good teams, because we saw it. We saw it firsthand. They only got across the 50-yard line one time, and they only got to the 49.
You texted that out.
I cannot believe it.
Yes, I couldn't believe that text. I read it. Like, what?
Hard to believe.
I'll tell you what. That was based on the games that we've done so far this year. That defense came out, and I was jarred. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And they jarred Jackson. First couple series, guys, they were beasts.
Did they basically just say defensively for Lake that we're not going to allow Luke Eckerman to beat us with his feet? We're going to just bottle him in. We're going to get after him and force somebody else to make a play.
And they sent
there.
Everybody. They were going gutsy to me for Lake to go one-on-one with Fuel Line and some of their receivers. They were going heads up half the time. Other times they would drop into zone, but they were sending somebody extra every play and getting in. Charlie Christopher, Hilscher Electric player of the game. Yep. The kid was all over the field. He did it on offense, running the rock. He did it on defense, firing in there. I think he probably had 4 or 5 sacks on his own. It was an insane defense. They showed up. First time we saw, and we've given tons of kudos to Lucas Eckerman. He had a rough game.
Yeah.
It's the first time he looked like a sophomore.
Yeah, well, he did. And here's the good news, right? He is a sophomore.
Yeah.
He's done a great job thus far this year, but he got rattled.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know what? He was getting blindsided.
Yeah.
He was getting chased around in the pocket. He really didn't have a whole lot of opportunity. And like I've mentioned before, Jackson's got a good ball club, but their offensive line needs some work. And Lake certainly put the magnifying glass on that one. Right.
We talked about that week 1, right?
Yeah.
That was our concern going through, and it really showed up.
Lake was relentless. I was extremely impressed with Lake. Of course, this week's going to be a dandy, as you mentioned.
No doubt about it. First place match between McKinley and Lake over there at Tom Benson Stadium. And really, when you think about the linebacking core, you mentioned Charlie Christopher, Hilscher Clarke Electric player of the game, but a guy like Joey Garrow, who's got the speed. We know what Eckerman can do with his wheels when he gets into open space. Having linebackers that can actually get after him and not match that speed, but be right there on his heels and create that pressure. That's really the X factor of what the defense from Lake brings.
Look, last year Lake came out, Coach George said this is probably the best defense that Lake has ever put on the field. That defense did not look as good as Lake looked Friday night.
Yeah.
That is probably the best defense I've seen out of Lake. I saw zero holes in that defense.
Right. Yeah, best one I've seen so far. Sorry, Jim.
No, you're a good brother.
Lake just I don't want to be redundant, but they just came out and they were relentless. The linebacking core, they stopped it. But if I understand correctly,
somebody else who's relentless. We got to talk about this lady back here, Kayla.
Okay.
Make sure when you're coming out here to Harmons Pub, stop down here to see Kayla, Heather, Timmy, Matt, all the boys.
Wings.
Come out here and check out what they have going on. Great food specials, great beverages, great people. This is one of the best atmospheres you'll find around Stark County. Not only that, but Northeast Ohio. When you come down here, know that they are open 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 11 to 12 Friday and Saturday, and kitchen will close at 9. But make sure you come down here. They've got burgers, salads, pizzas, the appetizers, the beverages, but these wings, the boneless wings, all of them, they are the best. Really shout out and appreciation to Tim and Matt. They've always gotten behind everything we're doing here at Stark Media, so make sure you stop down and see them. It's always a great fun atmosphere. We love coming down here. Not to mention, when they put your jersey up on the wall, you got to give them a
that.
flowers.
Bring that up, buddy.
So it's always great. We appreciate you and everything that you do.
You.
Thank you so much for everything. And
thank you.
It's always a great time here. So make sure to stop down and patronize Harmons Pub anytime you're in town. We also want to make sure to mention some of our other great sponsors here. Kackley Insurance, McNeill and Sons, who you talked about, sponsors our pregame show. We talk about some great food too. Lindseys Pizza. Always check out our friends over at
John.
Lindseys Pizza. 477-3800, Mr. Lindsay, one of the best out there. When we look to turn
wait a
the
minute.
page,
I just want to say, before we leave the Lake Jackson, we got to throw kudos out to the leader here, right? I mean, we're going to get into pick'ems later. He was the only guy that picked the Blue Streaks. Did you have like a crystal ball in, Teej, or what, brother?
I do. I got a little something, man.
You got a little something?
I brought the Mohawk back. It's all in the Mohawk.
I just want to throw out a little love, baby. Way to go.
I think that's what got him on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Was the Mohawk?
The Mohawk.
No doubt about it, but they wouldn't let me take the helmet off, so that was kind of the X factor. I was like, come on, man. If
you
you're gonna
did
have a
take it
Mohawk,
off once, because when I was explaining to my kids what I was doing, they looked you up. I always talk about TJ, and my one son goes, "This is TJ," It was when you had it colored and everything else.
Really?
But when it came time for final production, they made us keep our helmets on. I don't know. They let the
can't
quarterback
blame
keep his helmet off. You're right.
Hey,
I don't know, man. I'm a good-looking guy.
The skill guys, they're always putting those skill guys out there.
I know. You know what? They're so overrated.
Not loving the linemen.
When we look to fast forward, guys, Canton South at Manchester, we know when you talk about putting one of the best on the field, that's Poochie Schneider. We've talked about him all year long. Most likely, I would think, could potentially be Stark County Player of the Year. You think about the numbers he's put up. I know you guys both have some stats here. He's this week most likely will pass the all-time passing mark for Stark County. And, you think about how well they've been cruising after that victory over Sandy Valley. Go over and you take care of business against CVCA. You guys were there for that as well. And in Manchester, winless on the season, they've kind of been going through their lumps. You talked about Pappas, who's transferred over there to Northwest. You could go over on a road game inside the Pac-7, have a little bit of a letdown. It was closer than what anybody, I think, expected.
Right.
Yeah, Poochie 100%. If the kid plays, he's going to get the record. He only needs 73 yards to pass Cam Blair for the all-time passing, and he only needs 17 touchdowns passing to get that record also. So, look for him obviously this week to be crowned the all-time passing leader. That's
awesome.
Some of the company he's in, it's just insane when you think about it. But
I think this is going to be the third leader change in the county.
Yeah,
over the past, I'm not sure how many years.
Probably 6-7 years.
Talking about going back to Hunter,
because Hunter Wells got it in 15, 16, somewhere around there,
right.
And then Blair was only a couple years ago. 2-3 years ago, and he's over to Ashland now. So
you know how easy that can be to look forward, not to say on the backside, whether it's whoever you're going to be facing, but when you're taking on a team that on paper they shouldn't even be in the ball game with you. They come out, they surprise you, and again, I'm sure when we talk about throwing everything at somebody like Lake did to Jackson, Manchester did the same thing to Canton South, try and keep them on their toes.
When those scores were coming across the LPL financial scoreboard, right, and I'm watching the score come across, I was flabbergasted, right? But I'll tell you what, hats off to the Panthers, 0-6, coming in that game 0-5, and to keep the game as they did, that close, that long. It really wasn't until the fourth quarter that it really broke open.
Right.
They got to take something positive away, because, Canton South, we talk about them all the time. They're for real.
Well, that's 2 games in a row, right? CVCA and, was it Manchester?
Yep.
They were tight games early.
Yeah.
Both those games. And either way it could have gone early on, but you just didn't be in the booth like we were with the CVCA.
Right.
You just got this premonition based on Poochie Snyder and company. They're going to win the game.
They'll figure it out, even
They'll
in a tight
figure
one.
it out. But I tell you what, sometimes we've talked about this. You score so many points a game, you should win, right?
Yeah.
But there's going to be a point in time, that may not work. So my point is come out early, come out strong.
Both of you guys played in games, Ohio State, Michigan State. you're playing early on. You're playing at Toledo. You're playing at Youngstown State. You're playing on Akron. How many times in those games, first half, it's a 10-7 ball game?
Right.
And then you go into the second half, you know, your 300-pound linemen start wearing down their 240-pound linemen, and it's over at that point.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a quick one. We played Miami of Ohio. We're up 17-0 at half, and we're just, we're not playing great. There's a minute left in the game. We have a 4th and 11 on our own, probably 15-yard line. We're down by 4.
Oh, wow.
21-17. 21-17. 30 seconds left. We march that ball down the field to win the game.
Yeah.
Now, you want to talk about messing around? It can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
Right. You know, a lot of the times when you're in those situations, you roll out there and say, I can bring my B game today, and it's going to be enough. You know, and that's a bad mindset to take into a game. But you start thinking, there's a reason that they're there, and there's a reason that I'm here. And, let's just go out here, and it's almost like more of a walkthrough. You know, this is like playing against the scout team, but all of a sudden it starts creeping up on you. And we used to have a saying, it's going to happen somewhere, sometime, and Appalachian State's going to roll into the big house and beat a team like Michigan.
There you
just
go.
Make sure,
I was just going to bring that up.
Make sure it doesn't happen on
Like
your
that
watch.
day.
Always
Right on.
make sure you're taking care of
Well, I
business.
really hate to see Michigan lose. Not.
So
Still have that Sports Illustrated.
Canton South's going to have to roll down to Triway. Not an easy place to play, but I'm sure after practice this week and looking over that game film that they're going to be ready to go. Look at Fairless going over to Orville. We know that Orville has bounced back from having a couple down years after Markwell Parks had graduated, stud player out there. But for Fairless, they take a loss to Orville. And, inside of the Pac-7, Canton South's kind of rolling right now, but we're kind of looking towards the future here. Fairless is going to have to take on South. That could be a chance for them to get some redemption, but, again, could get the job done against the Red Riders.
Yeah, Orville, I put in the category of like Perry.
Yeah.
Whether they have an up year or a down year, they bring it.
Yeah.
They got some dogs, and they come and they play hard. Orville's Fairless's original team that they hated so much, rival, thank you, in the AOL all those years ago. It eventually converted once they got the pack into Tuslaw. But, some of the fears I had of my Fairless Falcons are coming true. They're thin on defense. They've got some banged-up running backs.
Running backs a little thin.
They've got a great quarterback. But, what we see even at the NFL level, if you've got a great quarterback and you don't have much around it, it's really tough to fill in the blanks. And I think that's what they're having right now. And unfortunately, being 2-5 right now, they're gonna now roll into 2-4. They 2-4.
Right.
They're gonna have to go on a run to continue that best streak that AJ Sawball has created there. And culture's there.
Yeah.
Guy does a phenomenal job with youth all the way up through. Culture's there. He's created some good stuff. Unfortunately, he just graduated the best graduating class that Fairless has ever had. It's tough to come back from, especially when you're going against Orville. But it is next man up, and right now, Fairless is struggling a little bit, and they've ran into some guys that are. Orville's been down for a couple years, so Orville's starting to, some of them young guys that played a year or two ago now are starting to be seniors, and so. You'll have that.
Right. Jim, one thing that kind of stuck out to me as we talk about our next game, Glen Oak going up to Green. Glen Oak, after getting that victory over Hoover in Week 5, feeling good about themselves. Probably should have beat Lake back in Week 4. You go into Green and you're leading almost the majority of the game, going into halftime up 21-10. Mm-hmm. You had talked last week about the new quarterback that has come in to replace Semino Manson, but it again comes down to a situation where you're kicking the ball at the end of the game for a chance to either tie, push it forward, and ultimately the Golden Eagles weren't able to get it done. And really, you got to tip your cap to Mark Geis. You get them on your home turf, you're able to spread them out, do some different things, and Glen Oak not able to get it done there, and it kind of created a little bit of that log jam right in the middle of the Federal League. We know again McKinley and Lake will play for first place, but when we start to think about some things that could happen down the stretch, a couple people get beat. Green has been a team that they've arrived inside of the Federal League. They took their lumps coming out of the Suburban League as they've gotten in there, and now they're feeling a little bit better, and that was a big win for them.
No, absolutely. Of course, at halftime, right, the Bulldogs are down 21-3. I mean, I'm sure coach is looking on the scoreboard going, wait a minute. And we talked about Glen Oak being a sleeper, right? Yeah. I mean, we talked about that last week. Question, I don't know. Do you guys know, did Avante Bird end up playing? You had some inside, so he did not.
Avante did not play, and I don't think that Adrian finished the game. I think he wasn't in there at the end either. And a few things that they need to deal with personnel-wise and get some things cleaned up, some injuries, some other things. And man, to have a late in the third, I think they were up 28-10, if I'm not mistaken. And
But I think it's the same thing like McKinley. Green has a lot of weapons, especially in that wide receiver core. And I know we didn't see, Manson wasn't there, but Tyler Hunka, had a great game. He goes down, filling in for Manson. He ends up completing a 2-point conversion, right, to put him up, 31-28. And he spreads the ball around nicely. Again, Zach Baglia went for 31 yards. Anthony Mandarin, 3 for 64. So overall, Hunka for the night, 14-21, 115 yards. But here's the other thing: he ran for 81 yards. So again, I'm sorry, Rod. You hate to lose Manson, but this young man appears to be stepping in.
You have to finish, though. Glen Oak didn't score in the fourth quarter.
That's the key word, man. Finish.
They didn't score in the fourth quarter. I mean, you could be up whatever it is at half, and I'm not being disrespectful of anyone, but you have to finish.
Well, let me ask you a question. You guys have played in some serious big games. Is the rule of thumb? And I'm not, like you said, I'm not questioning Coach Garcia. I know him personally; he's a great guy. On the road, down 3, 4th and short, in nearly the red zone. Is that a scenario where you're on the road, you go for the win, you go for that first down and try to get the?
I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to why you would go for it or you would kick it. I mean, it really just comes down to how much faith you have in your kicker.
Right.
And you also have to judge. You have to have a gauge on how much gas is left in the tank. If you don't think that you're able to withstand going into extra innings, then you know what? It's
right.
Let's take our shot here right now. Hold court on this 4th down. Run the play. If we get it, we lose. If we get it, we win. We don't, we lose.
So is that a thing where, hey, there's less gas in the tank? We should go for the win because overtime is going to be tough without much gas.
Correct.
So you got to consider all that, right?
Yeah, it's not just going for the win or going for the overtime. There's a lot more consideration, as TJ just articulated.
Yeah.
Does your team have enough gas, as he mentioned, to carry on, right, in overtime, or they're not, or, geez, can my kicker make a field goal?
Yeah.
What's his
I think it got
distance?
blocked.
Where is he?
Where's his head, right?
Yeah.
Because as we saw,
knowing your
Lake,
personnel's tough. Yeah.
we saw Lake, right? Well, this guy's a great kicker.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of a sudden, 2 wide rights, 1 wide
And then
left.
a 4th blocked.
And then those are the worst words you want to hear in your life, right?
Yeah.
Anything wide, whatever side. So, yeah, it's a gut. It's kind of a gut call, but it's also a
Educated guess?
a situational call.
Know your team.
Just got to have a pulse on your team, man. That's what it comes down to.
And before we leave, this game, we've got to shout out running back Jamar Johnson from Glen Oak. Man, I'm going to tell you what, the young man, 31 carries, 228 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, great job. I mean, that's electric player of the game.
He was 2 weeks
electric.
ago. He's had a pair of 200-yard football games now and filling in admirably for Avante Burt going down. So high school sports right here, presented by Hilscher Clarke Electric Company and the Eagles FOE 190, also brought to you in part by H&H Truck Parts, CH Vallos and Associates at Walsh University. All right, we're here inside of Harmons Pub. Make sure to stop down and patronize them right down here on Tusk. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to start breaking down a couple more games and get you ready for Week 7 of Ohio High School football. Hang with us. We'll be back. Welcome back into Harmons Pub on Stark Media High School Football Weekly, and we're joined by a special guest now as TJ Downing, Jim Bostic, Jeff Tyler, and Rod Strata are back here on Tusk at Harmons Pub, joined by Don Hertler Jr., and we just got a chance to break down McKinley at Hoover last week. Special deal for you guys as we welcomed in our new partner, Dave Bircher, who's a longtime assistant for you. But talk about that 20-year reunion of the 10-0 team. Pretty special for you to be able to go back to your old stomping grounds. Not only that, the field is named after your father, Don Hertler Senior Field. For you guys to be able to celebrate going 10-0, have all the guys back, guys like Alex Ramsey and Sam Soretta, had to be a pretty special deal for you guys, right?
It was very special. We had a nice cookout at Sam's house. Sam pretty much organized things and got a hold of each other, which you would expect your quarterback to do.
Yeah, no doubt.
He wasn't elected captain his senior year because we had 7 juniors when you were a senior played JVs, and he was one of those juniors.
Okay.
And most of those kids now would quit, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Most of them wouldn't play football through their junior year. And we literally had 7 kids that started the following year when we did go 10-0 that played JVs.
He was playing behind Brad Reefschneider.
And he was behind Brad Reefschneider. And I talked to him about not being captain, and he said, "That's okay, Coach. It's still my freaking huddle." And he said that to me. I said, nice. "Yeah, Sam, it is your huddle, and captain doesn't matter. You still run the show," and he took that, and he's still doing that to this day.
Yeah, can you tell me how special of a player Alex Ramsey was? I got a chance to meet him and really get in depth with him last year down at the state wrestling tournament. We were sitting out there, you, myself, Jamie Falls Knight. Right. He's showing me pictures. He's running cross country in sandals and like a straw hat and a flannel shirt. I mean, dude was just a motor. The athlete side of that body. I mean, he was a guy that was Stark County Player of the Year, right?
Yep, at 160 pounds.
Unbelievable talent for you, right?
Yes. Alex was definitely a special guy. He anchored the 4x8 best time in the nation, state championship, I think his junior and senior year.
Wow.
And then had to come back the next day and run the 800, which he never placed quite as high as he would have had he been just running an individual event.
Yeah.
But he'd blow it out the day before. And there were some other really great runners in that group, but to have the best times in the nation is pretty impressive. Being sixth in the state in wrestling, and then being our Stark County MVP. And then when the Canton Repository named the Stark County MVP, they put like 8 or 9 of our guys up because it was the epitome of a team.
Yeah.
It wasn't Alex. Alex was that motor guy. My dad used to tell him, the good backs run 20 yards in practice, the great backs run 40. So Alex just ran to the goal line every time. And then the next tailback came in, and that's the way it was. But I want to mention another guy that no one talks much about is Kyle Watts. Kyle was a 175-pound defensive end. He had 21 sacks, and he was a legit, I don't BS 40 times. He was a legit 4-5, played JVs as a junior.
Yeah.
Couldn't find a spot for him as a junior, and he played JVs and then led us in receptions. And we put in a couple of new things that year. And you know how everyone runs that slip screen now where they throw it out to the wide receiver and he comes up through the middle? Well, we had never run that till that year, and I never had anyone that could run it like him after that. He was hard-nosed, came from a good family in North Canton. Some were musicians, some were football players, some were who knows what they did, but they were just a pure North Canton family with great parents. And Kyle Watts was probably, really when I was putting up Stark County MVP, I was sort of like debating, but, Alex probably did a little more overall, sort of, but they were pretty equal actually. But Alex just had that attitude where his work ethic was so good that as a coach, we didn't have to coach work ethic every day.
Yeah.
We didn't coach effort at all that season. It was one of the most amazing seasons because of that. And then we pulled an upset off early against Bookville, who beat us the year before on a field goal. And we played very poorly, and they played very well that year.
They still had Stevie Walker at that time?
They had Stevie Walker. They had Pittman.
Yeah.
They had a big D end. They went to Tennessee.
Antonio Reynolds.
Yep. And they had 4 or 5 other guys. I mean, and how we beat them, we beat them with 2 guys that played JV. Sam Soretta threw an outcut to Drukenbrod in the corner of the end zone at the last play of the game, and we won the game 14-7. And that was game 2, and then that sort of sprung us out to really about the late game when we won in overtime. That was probably the closest game we lost all year.
Well, I know I wouldn't have survived it because I barely survived the CH Vallos and Associates wedding of the century, falling off the stage there. Got a little dicey, man, but I'll tell you what.
That was a hot day.
It was a hot day, man.
Yeah.
And I always, I always remind myself of the worst losses I've ever taken to kind of make me better each day. So I wear this BCS National Championship watch here that they gave us because that was about all we walked away with. So you reminded me again by wearing the jersey today, man, the Florida Gators. I wake up and have
let's put tape over that.
Have the cold sweats, man.
I thought you told me we don't talk about that.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. I got this when I went to visit Scott Loeffler, who's the head coach of Bowling Green.
One
I
of the
followed
best,
him
man.
for 15 years, and he was down with Tebow his senior year. And Scott always taught me a lot of football, and if it weren't for Scott Loeffler, who's the head coach of Bowling Green now, we would not have had the passing game concepts and the things that they did on Saturdays and Sundays that he taught me, and then more importantly the protections that he taught me.
Yeah. Don Hertler Jr. joining us here on Stark Media High School Football Weekly. We're going to get ready to break down a couple small schools here. Before we do that, kind of tell us a little bit about what's going on at your last stop, man, Conotton Valley. How they doing down there? Talk about the guy who's kind of taken over for you and how they've kind of gone through this 2023 season.
They've won 3 games, so they're 3-3.
Yep.
And I think they have a winnable game this week. I know their quarterback, who started for me, and I guess I can say this, he was pre-pubic when he started for me as a freshman, and I'm not joking. And I've never had a kid in my entire career who wasn't very big, wasn't very fast, but he was the smartest freshman I ever had. And it didn't matter how hard he got hit, he'd get up and go again. And he's been really banged up. He's got a muscle pull. He's got this, that, and the other thing. And they really struggle up front this year. They just don't have the linemen we had the last couple of years. But if they can get 4, 5, 6 victories, they're having a great season. And Derek O'Hara took over for me, was an assistant 1 year for me, doing a really nice job trying to keep some things the same. That's why I went down there to try to start a program and then have somebody continue it. And Ty Carruthers was going to be that guy, and then he had to move to Columbus for personal reasons. And so it worked out for Derek, and they're still doing a lot of the same things. He's going to put his own stamp on everything, and he's doing a great job of that. But he's a great teacher. He's very organized. He was the organized guy for me last year, and I still write everything down, and everyone else does everything on computer. But that's how I learn, and that wasn't going to change over time. But we're doing okay.
We talked about Canton South going over there to Manchester last week, and it was a little tighter than what we thought it should be, or what anybody on paper looking at it would have thought it would end up being. Tuslaw went over to Northwest, Jim, and Tuslaw, they've taken their bumps here and there throughout the season, especially playing against tougher competition, CVCA. We know Northwest has been rolling. You've had a chance to cover them. Connor Satterfield, he's a dude out there. They've kind of reloaded on that offensive line. I know you know both of those coaches very well. A lot of extensive history with Coach John DeMarco coaching against him and that legendary rivalry that you guys would have. But you look at some of the numbers from that game. I know Tuslaw showed up ready to play.
Well, I'll tell you what, Northwest is busted off 4 wins in a row, right? I mean, but I'll tell you what, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about it later. Orville comes in, so, it'll be an interesting week 7 for them. But again, you talked about Tyler Pappas, coming in. That young man just keeps putting up the numbers, keeps doing things right. 2 touchdown throws, right, to Tristan Pennington, Chase Badger down there. But again, you go back to that dynamic duo in the backfield between Satterfield, your bull horse, just hammer, and you got Kraft, that little crafty back again, coming through. Again, hats off to special teams. We always talk about how important special teams. Logan Allman, right? 2 field goal blocks. I mean, that's to get one. You guys know better than anybody. Pretty amazing. This young man in 1 game hits 2. So again, Northwest took care of business that they needed to, but this week will be interesting. I think it's going to tell a lot about Northwest. What happens this Friday.
Might be one of the games of the week. Northwest Orville, just from a matchup standpoint, what they've both dealt with at this point. I think it's going to be really glaring coming out of that game. Who wins that ball game? What's going to happen in the Pac-7 here going forward?
Yeah, I agree with that. And John DeMarco has done a great job there. Great job at Louisville, obviously. And he also played for my father at North Canton Hoover. And anytime he could go visit my dad when he wasn't doing so well, John was the first one there. And you don't mean a more quality guy and a guy I looked up to growing up. And so there's a lot of history there.
I'm sure that it had to tickle him inside a little bit going over there and getting a victory over Louisville when he goes back to his old stomping grounds. But I need you to tell us, what kind of player was John DeMarco out on the field? What position did he play? Was he a quarterback?
John was a quarterback when he was young, and then ended up being a running back and a defensive back, and he was a very good player, just really steady. I don't know why. Well, maybe a guy named Todd Blackledge moved in about the time that, and he played. Yep. And but I don't know if that was really it or not. But John was a really good. I think they were undefeated as freshmen, as a matter of fact, and they had a good group of guys, and they were just quality people, and John was the leader of that group. And when we finally got Greentown into North Canton, that made a big difference with North Canton getting a little bit better, getting some tough guys in there.
Started bringing some Falls Knights in.
You got it. The Falls Knights, the Andersons, you name it. The Jordans.
Yep.
Yeah. The Jordans. Steve Jordan was a great friend of my dad, and his son Mickey played at OU, was a really outstanding quarterback at Hoover. So when Greentown came in, the Draper twin brothers, I can go on and on and on. Paparones. But when Greentown came into North Canton and they mixed them all together, then that really made a big difference, I think, overall in the program.
Rod, you had a chance to play against teams that his father coached.
Absolutely.
When you guys over there at Perry went and lined up against North Canton Hoover, talk about some of those battles.
Oh, they were epic battles. In I'm going to go way back. I think in '74 we played at Hoover. That's the year we went 8-1-1. Thought we were going to win the Federal. Unfortunately, we lost Canton South. The old Federal.
With Mark Miller.
Right.
And Greg Williams and that group.
Yeah, Greg Williams. And I played against Greg when he was at Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
Played him our second year, second game, '78. But anyway, I remember we won that game in '74. We had blocked a punt, and Hoover was at that time Perry's big rival.
Yeah.
Right. It was a really big rival. But I got to tell you what, they were fast. My remembrance of Hoover and the Vikings, they were well coached. They had great discipline. There wasn't any of this, swinging or cussing or trash talk, nothing. And they came after you. They really did. And we had, in my senior year, we got beat by them. I think my sophomore, I think we only beat them once when I was, between sophomore and senior at Perry. And North Canton was always respected. Later in life now, Charlie Grangi was an extremely great player, right?
And a better man. Yep.
A great guy. Was just a solid man, right? I think he played. He went to where?
He went to Naval Academy Prep
First.
School, and then he ended up at Kent, and then
Kent.
he was in the USFL with Sam Sopp down in Birmingham.
Right. Well, right. And I played the last year of that USFL with the Roanoke Hunters in Virginia. Way back. So, yeah. I mean, kudos off to North Canton. They have, perfect, great program. I have a lot of memories there because used to have the I think it was the Federal League Championship or the sectional meets for track.
The track. They had the Invitational, then they had the district track meet every year. Yes.
Right. So I remember it was one of my favorite places to throw, or the shot or the disc. And Judd Logan was a young guy, and at the time, and just have really good memories of North Canton. In fact, I'm a North Canton resident.
Yep.
And I have good memories against Perry, except for my senior year. But what I do have good memories of is my dad used to go over to Winkhart's house and exchange films hand to hand. And I was a little kid in the car, and I'd go up and God rest his soul. But I know that was one of the people that my dad really loved and respected, and they compete against. And he was nothing but first class from everything that my dad told me. I was a little young to know any better, but just their relationship, and that's what makes coaching special, is when you have relationships with guys and egos aren't too big, and that you really become good friends, because no one knows what it's like to lose Saturday mornings except for those head coaches.
How cool is that? Like thinking of your dad walking over, handing the film over, having a conversation. I mean, things are different now. It's all digital. It's all email me the link and send me the play.
It's that, Jeff, and I think I'm not saying there's a lack of respect. I just think it's not at the same level.
It's almost like people are trying to hide stuff nowadays.
Right.
It's such a big secret.
And it's just got so blown up proportion. Hey, look, I get it. We know we can see something in a minute, whether it's happening in Asia or Europe or here. But, Coach Winkhart, I respected the heck out of that guy.
Yep, right? And his staff. And
Perry
football was tough football, and they're still
me about it.
have the same type of tradition. They may not have a great team year in and year out all the time either, like all of us, but when you're in public schools, that's the way it goes. But as far as program-wise, Perry's been outstanding forever, and they're known for just being tough and hard-nosed. And I used to tease Coach Wakefield that our guys had skinny ankles in pregame, and his guys all had thick ankles until the last year we played them, and I went, holy shoot, you got thin ankle guys, and my guys' ankles are a little thicker this year. I'm a little worried tonight. So I used to give Keith the business about that.
Wow, I never looked at a pregame situation like that on the handle count.
They just grew the grass out.
That means our guys
could
run pretty well.
That's right.
Yeah, we weren't real big, but we could run.
They grew the grass out over there at Perry with that hump in the middle and the grass out. You felt like you were in quicksand.
Well, and with the hump on the field, I had to get on the doctor's shoulders so I could see the other side. I was too short to see anything on the other side.
Well, in wrestling, Rob, we check out the other guy's shoes, right? That was a big thing. Who's got the better shoes?
Uh-huh.
But, Coach, I want to thank you for, giving us Dave Bircher, a great addition to the Stark Media family. And, it was my first time to meet Dave on Friday night. We broke bread together before the game started. Great dude. Can you give us any a funny Coach Bircher story?
I can give you a lot.
A lot? Oh. Okay.
But on a serious note, Dave came with me from Garaway.
Okay.
He was hired at Garaway. I hired him at the J&G Grill. And I got hired at Maslin at the Alibi. Al Paris hired me. He goes, I'm going to hire you, Don, in an hour. I'm going to retire and I'll be back in an hour. So before that, I hired Dave Bircher at the J&G Grill.
Did you
down
retire after you hired Dave? Did you follow that plan?
There. No, I did.
No, okay.
No, we were just getting started.
Okay.
But Dave did an unbelievable job for me. Was going to be our defensive coordinator at one point, and then his daughter Ashley was born 1 pound 4 ounces.
Oh, wow.
And is doing great. Graduated from Mount Union. Doing
Miracle
great.
baby.
She
Yeah.
is the
Awesome.
miracle baby of all time. And so then that was like right before two-a-days, so we made a change there. But Dave always did the special teams, and between him and Mike Zarko doing our special teams, they came up with a lot of crazy things that used to drive people crazy. And some of them were good and some of them weren't so good. But Dave took his job so serious and was so into it and cared about those kids and was just a loyal assistant to me forever. And coached all sports. You know, I mean, he did basketball for how many years and did football. And then when I left, he went down to the freshman level to keep coaching. And he's a special man, a special family, and was a loyal guy to me. And like most of my staff, you know, I had pretty much the same guys most of the time with maybe a couple changes here and there. But to have that consistency and know what you're going to get was really, really beneficial.
When it works, they praise you for it. When it doesn't work, as Jack Rose used to tell me, you'd show up at your car after the game and there would be a suitcase underneath the passenger side, and you'd have to call in the bomb squad because you know they wanted to take you out after that call.
I talked to Jack 2 weeks ago, and he told me that story.
Oh man!
Wow.
And Steve Mo Morris was a little bit worried about it. He's like, you can't open that up.
Wow.
But that was back in the day. But
You know,
and I worked for Jack 1 year, and I can't say enough good things about Jack as a man.
I was fortunate to have him, and I'll tell you this. I've told you this before. My favorite place when I played in high school was at Memorial Field, Memorial Stadium, and you know, for me, I know that Chris Vallos, guys like Gulling, guys like Ray Schneider, guys like Jordan Roth, they will always remind me.
Jordan who?
Because you talked about your record against Hoover. They will always remind me that the first part of mine started with a 0 because we never got any wins against the Vikings. Never beat them, man.
Really?
So they don't ever let me forget about that.
Sometimes luck is better than
Skill.
anything else.
Yeah,
Right?
well, then, you
The
know.
10-0 team you talked about, you know, you have to have the ball roll your way. We had probably teams just as good or better. I know we did. And they might have won 9 or 8 wins.
Yeah.
You know, but it takes luck, injuries, all those types of things. But it was just a special group with that undefeated team because 7 or 8 of them played JVs as juniors, and they stepped into the senior role.
Amazing story.
And it really is. And we were little, and if you've got 30 seconds, I got a quick one for you.
Oh, we love it, man.
We're doing 7-on-7.
We got plenty of time for you, man.
Okay, we're doing 7-on-7 at Akron U, and we're going against Glenville, and Teddy Ginn's the quarterback. All right? So we're doing 7-on-7, and we get rained out for a little bit. We got lightened out. We're under a tent, and I look at their offensive coordinator. I said, hey, it's a good thing, and I don't think we're going to be all that strong that year. You know the group we lost. You know, we had a lot of talented guys in the class that you were with.
Played a lot of postseason football.
Yep. And so we're doing 7-on-7, and I look at their offensive coordinator when we're lightening out, and I said, hey, I'm glad it's raining. I said, it might give you guys a chance to be able to run as fast as us. and the guy looked at me and goes, I don't think so. And I said, I'm just kidding. And then we go out and we play them in 7-on-7, and it was only a 50-yard field, but we were little, but we could run with them.
Yeah.
And I know it was a shock, but I'm like going, oh, my gosh, if we don't face anybody, it's just going to line up and just kick our butt. I said, we got a chance here. And we were really bad in our opener early, but as the team grew and got together, and then we took off. And then the last thing I said was, you know, we have a record. Ted Ginn got no yards rushing against us, Teddy Ginn. Oof. You know why, TJ?
Why is
it
that?
was 7-on-7. Quarterbacks can't run.
It was a passing scrimmage.
Oh, man.
All right.
I love it, man. We brought the best here today. Don
Wow,
Hertler Jr., man.
absolutely.
High school sports here
Good
on
being with
Start
you.
Media. Brought to you by LPL Financial, Leathernecks Nation MC, Sam Center, Save 22. Make sure we always get behind our veterans. Check them out at save22.bet. Also, our good friends down the road at Sam Center, giving back every first and third Friday of the month over 6,000 pounds of food to veteran families in need. When you can, get behind them. Also, shout out to Spirit of Stark, Miracle Motors 42, and EverFi, the leaders in mental health awareness. We two other coaches I know you're familiar with as we roll forward here, getting ready for Week 7. Mogadore at Central is going to be a big game. I know a lot of people thought that Coach Adorna's team was going to be down this year after we saw them graduate Mr. Schellenbarger, who won the state championship in wrestling last year. Big tailback coming out of the backfield. They're out to a 4-1 start. You look at Trucker and what he's able to do over here just right down the road from us here at Central Catholic. When I look back up here at jerseys like T. Roops, man, maybe one of the most legendary plays in Stark County history where, after getting smoked by Coldwater 2 years in a row, they come back third year in the Horseshoe and they get a state championship victory. Coach Linda Smith does a great job there. They're rolling now. They got that big victory over Alliance. They handle business getting ready here to take on Mogadore. How do you guys see this game shaking out?
Well, I think Mogadore's got a pretty good ball club. I think they're, 5-1?
Yep.
They're on a 3-game win streak. They're averaging 42.7 points per game, right? So we talked about, when we won the Big Ten championship, we averaged 42 points a game.
Yeah.
It's hard to lose, right, with that, right? So
if you could just get your defense to hold them under 30, you're good to go, right?
Correct. So I know Dan Boron, the Boron's done a great job over at Central, and that team Central's always been a fighting team, right? They just don't give up. But I think they have their hands full with Mogadore. I really do. It's going to be a tough game.
Now, wait a minute. Are you sneaking up on us again on Pick'ems? Because that was one of your Pick'em games. Are we
we can
go right into it. We can pick that.
We're
previewing and picking them, man.
Ooh,
we
P&P, baby. Preview and pick them.
Trust me, here today. If we can handle audibles, we can handle this, okay?
Yeah, the bullets are flying here inside of Harmons Pub. Oh, man. Coach Linda Smith, and remind me if I'm wrong here, did Coach Lowell Kleinfelder do the same thing? Was he always kind of playing up to competition? Was he playing teams in Federal League, playing teams that were D1, D2? And how much of a benefit is that for you when you get into the playoffs down at D3, D4, D5? All of a sudden it's like, okay, we've seen bigger, better before. This allows us to make that run, right?
No question. We played Lowell, I think, 4 times, and I remember my dad saying, "You don't want to play Central. You don't want to play Central," because they were just so fundamental and so tough and well coached, but we had great games with them, win or lose, and it does help prepare them for the playoffs big time.
Yeah.
And they didn't beat themselves very often. You got to go beat them. They were like
flashy.
a Jeff Durbin team at Lake. You had to go beat them. They weren't going to beat themselves, and so that was always a challenge, not to let down and beat yourselves and not have a good night.
Yeah, but Jeff, 3 teams in the county have won state championships, right? And they're going to be celebrating the 1988 state championship team here in just 2 weeks when Central is going to take on Jackson. Again, shout out to one of the greatest ever, Dave Mono, who's no longer with us. What a legend he was. Offensive lineman starter down there at Ohio State. I know they'll be celebrating in his memory. But, it's St. Thomas, McKinley, Central. It's a rich history that we have around here, but how difficult we all know it is to get to Week 15, now to get to Week 16, and to make it all happen, man. You got to have a lot of things lined up.
Well, we talked about it last year, or even when we were doing the state final game, whenever Hoban was, or semis, whenever Hoban was playing Massillon, and we talked about the fact that it's a long schedule. It's basically an NFL schedule without any byes. NFL plays 17 games with 2 byes. These kids, if they go all the way through the state finals, you're playing 15 games. So it puts them in a scenario. You brought it up, how important it is. You got to have the personnel. You got to have the coaching. You got to have the scheme. You got to have the attitude right. But you got to stay healthy.
There you
That's
go.
That's the key.
I mean,
healthy and keep them focused that long and not have a bad night.
Yeah, if you lose any of your key folks,
it takes luck.
Trouble.
So I want to ask you what your thoughts are. We've talked a little bit here a couple weeks ago about playing teams way above maybe your weight, where you might get it handed to you 1 or 2 weeks in a row. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I think there's 2 things of it. You put a flashlight on what we're not good at and what we need to do better. But at some point, you got to make sure you can keep your kids healthy. You got to make sure you can keep your kids' head in the game. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you have to be really careful with your scheduling. Depends what type of league you're in.
Yeah.
You got to be careful. But like you said, it's tough. It depends what kind of program you're at. If you're at a place that's used to winning, then you can respond after a loss a lot easier. If you're at a place that hasn't had a great winning tradition and you're trying to build, Like I think Gouling's doing a great job at Tussle. I know he's got a lot of young guys and doesn't have a lot of coaches in the building, to help him out. And, guys like that, they're trying to just build wins. So it's different programs and different situations. If you're in a program where you're going to win a lot and you're going to win a lot or you think you're going to win a lot, then you can play up a little bit.
Yeah.
Tom McDaniels did that at McKinley. He played Ignatius every year. And he felt to ever win a state title, he needed to play them to get to that level.
Yeah.
And so that was his philosophy, but he also knew he was going to have a good season most years.
Yeah.
And so they could afford that win or loss, But some people, they can't afford that. They need to develop that winning attitude. You brought up Conotton Valley real quick. I mean, they hadn't had a winning season since '96.
Ooh.
So, I was a much different guy down there. My old players would come out and see me and say, "Who are you?" Because these guys have been beat up their whole lives. I just wanted to play football and have a good experience. And you can't beat down kids that have been beat down their whole lives. So that's what we try to do there.
Welcome back into Harmons Pub on Stark Media High School Football Weekly. Again, always presented by our good friends at Hilscher Clarke Electric Company and the Eagles FOE 190. We want to give a special shout out again to our good friends here, Tim Roop and Matt Cunningham, always taking care of us, putting us in the driver's seat here. Our good girlfriend back there, Kayla, she came by, showed us some of our great food.
I thought those were
things
going
that we
to the
have here.
table, and she kept walking.
We didn't have a whole lot of room, man. And I know you're on a diet,
There's not
partner.
a whole lot of room on this table at the moment.
We could have made room.
I know you could have ate both dozen. couldn't you?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, this guy works up an appetite, man. I'll tell you what, you want great food. You want great food? Come down here. Remember, the kitchen always closes at 9 o'clock. They're open 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Thursday. Also 11 a.m. to 12 Friday and Saturday. Again, come down here, check out the kitchen before it closes at 9. Burgers, salads, pizzas, beverages, appetizers, and again, best wings in town. Can't beat them. Also want to give a special shout out to our friends at Kackley Insurance, McNeill & Sons Tree Service, Lindseys Pizza, H&H Truck Parts, CH Vallos and Associates, Walsh University, LPL Financial, Leathernecks Nation MC, and the Sam Center in downtown Massillon. All right, guys, as we get back into it, Week 7 coming up here, big one. Jimmy B, you're going to be over there with Dave Bircher, St. John's Collegiate at Massillon. Now, for those that don't know about St. John's Collegiate, this is a good football team. They have a running back who's committed to Oregon, Dewan Riggs. Wow. This is a tough group. They just beat Mission Viejo. Anybody knows anything about Mission Viejo? Been one of the best programs in the nation for a long, long time. This is also a Massillon team that's playing pretty well right now defensively, maybe one of the best defenses in the state of Ohio. How do we kind of see this thing shaking out, guys?
Well, I'll tell you what, I watched a little on the Max picks that you shared with me, a little bit of their footage.
Yep.
I'm telling you, their defense looks for real.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fast. Those defensive backs kind of sit and wait. They kind of scout out. They had like 2 interceptions in that Mission Viejo game, right, for a run. They're 3-1. They're ranked like 4 or 5 in the state of Maryland. I think it could be a good game, but my partner over here, Rod, says they don't know what they're walking into.
No, they that last week, I think he's right.
So, that's a heck of a place to play, number one. And number two, no, they don't know what they're walking into. I don't think Massillon's going to be cocky, but I will tell you this: they'll be relentless. I think Massillon's got. You mentioned speed, right? Even though I didn't see much footage of the St. Ed's game, I will tell you this: you have an offensive line at St. Ed's, 6'5", 300-pound average, roughly, or more, and Massillon's outmaneuver them. It's strength, but it's also speed.
Yep.
And I just think coming into Massillon, they're going to be limping walking out.
Side to side agility, Jeff. And we talked about Mike Wright, man. He's a tough one up front there. You got Chase Bond. He's going to NC State. His little brother, DJ Zimmerman, on the other side. You mix in that offensive line that they have as well, Massillon's. And, you think about bus legs, too. You're going to take a 7-8 hour charter coming up here. You're going to come up the night before. But, again, that takes a lot out of young high school kids.
Yeah, and, I think preseason tournament that we saw all these out-of-state teams coming in here and taking on Northeast Ohio.
Yep.
And our good teams versus their good teams. I don't know that number
state
4.
champions from the year before.
And, 3-time state-type champions. I don't know that a DC number 4 team can translate to Massillon, Ohio. I just don't. I mean, I'm biased. Yep. We see this football. There's other states out there like Texas and some of them southern states that have good football. But I just don't think – I'm with you, Rod. I think they don't know what they're in for. Well, yeah, they have a 1 or 2 really good D1 players, but Massillon has them everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think they probably played the stadium like Massillon.
No.
A high school stadium, you're coming in.
You're going to have 10 Gs plus packed in there.
Exactly, or more. And, you said plus, my bad. And so They're going to come in there. It's going to be loud. They're going to be going, oh, boy, what did we walk into?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, it might almost be like wrestling, Jim. Those boys might be on their back looking up.
I think Pringle and company right up front going to see a lot of offensive linemen on their back.
It just feels like Massillon is in a groove.
Yep.
They are going methodically week to week to week against the best teams in multiple states, and they have a vision, and they haven't had that letdown yet. They haven't had that bad week of practice where they go in and they come out soft. They are coming out firing from the whistle, and I think they will get it done.
I think that's one of the things that Nate Moore does best. He keeps them down. It's a week-to-week thing. You know, they talked 15 weeks when they would go through. They did the 15 for 15, and after each week, after each victory, they would do a certain amount of push-ups out there on the field, and it's 1 week at a time, one game at a time, then it's on to the next. If you start looking forward, you start thinking about, what's looming at the end of the season, the greatest rivalry in high school football, McKinley-Massillon, Massillon-McKinley, however you go. I don't want to get beat up. But,
boy.
Those are the things you have to do as a coach, and it's not easy, Jim. You've been an administrator. You've been a coach yourself to keep 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids dialed in. I just had this conversation with Rod the other day. Young Eckerman over there at Jackson, I don't even think he can drive a car yet, but he's got the keys to the offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, Coach Moore was quoted in one of his, he said that they sputtered a little bit at first against the middies until they got things going. And I'm thinking, how many coaches would like to sputter just partially of how you are sputtering?
By 30-some points.
Yeah. His bar for excellence is higher than most, right?
Yep.
And he's got a team that can meet that bar. However, to TJ's point, you got to keep these players, 17, 18, or 16, 17, 18-year-olds, motivated and focused. So basically, I would be totally shocked if Massillon had a down game this weekend.
I think what you might see is similar to the Middletown game last year, where St. John's, they'll be in it through three quarters, and then that muscle of Pringle, Fair, the D-line, it'll start to flex, and there's a quarterback situation going on over there. Owens, I don't believe, is going to be able to play. I believe Slaughter has a broken thumb from hitting on the helmet last year. Not sure if it's broken or not. I won't speculate, but I know it's on his throwing hand. He's got a little something going on. So, but again, a stable of tailbacks. Maybe you lean on the run, chew up the clock, shorten the game, big offensive line. We'll see how it goes. I know my man over here, you're going to be over there at my old stomping grounds at Glen Oak High School, and Glen Oak coming back after a loss. Jackson coming back after a loss. This is a key middle-of-the-road Federal League game.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is a tough one. I was mentioning to Jeff earlier, I might be Jackson's announcer for the year. This will be number 4. And it'll be number 2 for Glen Oak. So here you go.
Well, you're 3-1 for them, or 2-1.
Yeah, right.
They like you.
Last week, it was a nightmare for Jackson.
Yeah,
it really was.
It's got to be a nightmare for Glen Oak too, though. When you're up 21-3,
21-3. And oh, by the way, I want to mention something. I'm reading online about the fans. Trust me, these coaches love the fans. There's no question. However, when you're criticizing a coach, the head coach of Glen Oak, you say, well, we shouldn't have gone for the tie. He wasn't going for the tie. He was going for overtime, right? And you're not there. And I'm going to take just a piece out of this quote. Theodore Roosevelt said, it's not the critic that counts, it's the man in the arena. You know what? You can read the whole thing if you look it up online. And I firmly believe in that. Because unless you've ever been there, unless you've ever done it, it's easy to sit there and criticize all you want. So, Coach Garcia, you know what? You made the call you thought was right.
Yep.
But coming into this week, this is a tough one for me as far as how that's going to go, because I think Glen Oak's got their back to the wall.
Yep.
But,
Jackson probably feels the same way too, even
they
though they
do,
only have
but I just
one
think,
loss in the Federal League compared to Glen Oak's 2. It's still a different story.
But here's what I'm thinking, though, right? I think I read in the paper too. Jay Rohr basically said, "Well, of course, Glen Oak has the film. They saw what happened at Lake.
Yep.
I think Glen Oak's going to probably try to mirror the linebacker core or the defensive schemas against Jackson. And I just don't know if Jackson's offensive line is up for the test again. I'm not saying they won't be, but I'm just saying that if Glen Oak comes out, plays D, they've scored points against good teams.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? it's going to be a tough one. But
Look, you've got a lot of years of history at Glen Oak. I do as well. And one thing Glen Oak tends to do is when their back's against the wall, they tend to play well, and they tend to beat teams sometimes that they shouldn't down the stretch because of that.
Yep.
And maybe that type of scenario.
Same situation, I believe, just a year or two ago when all looked lost on the season, and they're over there at Tom Benson Stadium, and they probably should have beat McKinley if it wasn't for a horse crap call by the official.
Yep.
I think they probably win that game.
Yeah.
So, again, it was a back-to-the-wall type thing. McKinley was at the top of the Federal League
we're
at the
going
time.
to intermingle things here. I think Glen Oak's going to pull this one out.
Okay. Well, hey, when we start thinking about this top-tier matchup for first place in the Federal League, Lake's going to be at McKinley. It's always tougher going on the road, but, when you're both at the top, sitting there, ready to rock, it's I think there's going to be some electric atmosphere inside of that stadium, one of the best venues in the country to play in. How do you kind of see this thing shaking out? I mean, Lake obviously is going to probably try and, again, mirror what they did last week. If you can shut down the run and maybe force Keaton Rohde into some decisions that he made 2 weeks ago when he had the turnovers and the interceptions, I think that might be the recipe for the Blue Streaks.
Tell you what, though, you talk about tough on the road. McKinley is 4-0 on the road.
Yeah.
They're their only loss was at home, one at home, 4-0 on the road.
They're playing at home,
They're
right?
playing at McKinley, though. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, they are too.
Yeah.
I thought they were at Lake.
No, they're at McKinley.
There you
Yeah.
go. Can I reverse
you know
my
what?
pick? No,
You haven't done it yet. You haven't made your pick yet.
Good call. Thank you, John.
I almost said Fawcett. Sorry.
But if you're that great on the road, you're probably that much better at home.
Well, no, absolutely, and I'll tell you what, I think the difference, right, for McKinley v. Lake is, again, they've got so many weapons, whether it's the backfield, and I know that the Polar Bears trying to get Satterfield, Pistorius in the run game. They couldn't. We know Eckerman can run the ball, but I'm going to tell you what, when you got Nino Hill and Stephon Thomas coming out of that backfield, and you got Keaton Rohde who can run. Again, all hats off, respect to Lake's defense, man. Top shelf in the Fed. But again, I think it's a different offense that they're going to be facing, and those weapons that McKinley's bringing, in against.
I don't know that it's that much of a different of an offense. I mean, McKinley's only losses to Avon, who is top 6 right now, I think, in state. Right? Am I right?
Yep.
I don't know that offense is much different. I think it's a very similar offense, Jackson, to McKinley, especially whenever week in, week out, maybe Nino Hill's playing, maybe he's not, maybe we got a couple other guys playing, McClellan playing, not playing. McKinley has 3 games now where they started out slow, and they come out and they're down 14 rip early. You go down 14 rip early against the Lake, you're going to have problems down the stretch. They're not going to lay down.
Wasn't Lake's only loss last year to McKinley? That accurate?
Yes, they did lose to them last year.
And then they lost to Massillon in the playoffs.
Yep.
Those are their only 2 losses last year.
It's going to be all I'm going to say is the following: if Lake comes out and they have that intensity on that defense, and they get McKinley on the up front line. Now McKinley's got a good up front as well, right? Yep, good size. But if they can be fast, quick, and play smash mouth football and jar them a little bit, it could be a barn burner.
Last year, don't quote me on this, but I believe Hoover beat McKinley, Lake beat Hoover, and then McKinley beat Lake, so they ended up sharing the Federal League with each other. Right. So, when we start to look now at some of our pick'ems, guys, let's just jump right into it here.
This is a tough week, Coach.
It is, and I like that. And I picked some good ones on here so that my guy and I over here can make the jump back because we're -4 in the turnover margin right now. We can overcome that this week. All right, Carrollton is going to play at Alliance. Carrollton and Marlington just banged it out last week. Carrollton able to get the edge and have the advantage. Alliance bounced back after a tough loss to Central, beating Salem last week. How do you guys see this thing going?
Remind me, what's Carrollton's record?
You're Carrollton against who?
Carrollton at Alliance.
Anyway, that's okay.
Carrollton has played good at times. I'm going to take Alliance. I think Alliance just has more firepower. I think Alliance has looked suspect at times, but they still got a solid record, and then they still got a lot to play for. So I got Alliance in that one.
Yeah, I think Alliance has a lot to win for.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, they have a lot to lose for too. They don't need to lose, and I think their backs against the wall a little bit mid-season, second half of the season. So I'll go with the Aviators.
I was going to say same thing. Home cooking is going to help. Quarterback Zerbrug, I think he's going to just have a good day. It's going to be a good game, close game, but I'm going Aviators.
All right, well, we get the two easy ones out of the way here. I'm going to take Alliance as well, so we're all even across that board. I'm sure I know where we're all going here. Marlington's at West Branch. West Branch just dropped 63 points, I believe, in the first half of that ball game against Minerva. Finished it out 70-0 on the scoreboard, a la Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel. All right, Marlington at West Branch, going to be a tough one. Big Bo Alazos running quarterback, doing a good job there. I'm sure you guys probably see it the Warrior way, huh?
Yeah. I do. I think I looked at some of the stats from West Branch this morning, and
I tried to build a case for Marlington, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be West Branch.
Marlington's got a decent team. They got some good players. They're very respectable, and I'm not going off their 70-0 win, picking them. But
because it was Minerva. Yep.
West Branch is what, 5-1?
Yep. West Branch playing some good football.
So I'm going with West Branch.
Joe Cardinal's doing a good job out there at Marlington. It's going to take a little bit of time building up after, even following up a great coach who was only there for, I believe, just 1 or 2 years. Phil Morrow, a legend over there at Jackson, who's coaching on Jay's staff. I know he'll have him ready for the Golden Eagles. But West Branch in this game. All right, let's dive into something a little bit tougher here. Massillon, St. John's. I'm going to go with the Massillon Tigers.
Are you sure that's tougher? Oh, that's a tough. I know what we said about St. John, but
I was dangling that one out there, see if I could get one of you guys to jump on it.
No, you were tinkling.
Yeah, laying in the weeds.
I'm going Tigers all day long.
Tigers.
All right, so we got Tigers consensus. All right, well, okay, then let's make it a little bit more tougher. McKinley and Lake.
Oh, TJ.
I'm gonna jump on you guys right now. I'm gonna stick with my feeling last week. I like the Lake Blue Streaks and Coach Dan DeGeorge in this one.
That's where I'm going. I'm with that Lake
That's
defense.
Where I believe. Look, dang, I was trying to be the only
you were
guy.
trying to maneuver it.
I was trying to be the only guy that went to Lake. I was trying to hedge my bet and it didn't work.
Go the other way now.
But I'm going with Lake. I think Lake can go in and get the dub.
Man, I hate to do it, man. And there's a certain coach that's not going to be happy with me. I'm
plus 3.
I'm going to. I'm going with McKinley.
There's one for us.
Bulldogs at home.
All right, Jackson at Glen Oak.
Oh, boy.
On the road, Jackson at Glen Oak. Glen Oak back against the wall. I just talked about what they do with their back against the wall.
Yeah.
Some internal things going on there. Eckermont bounces back. I think it might end up being a boat race. Jackson that gets a W.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, you guys always told me his team plays like their coach, Jay Rohr. I think Rohr's going to pull them all together. He's going to take them over to the Eagle Stadium. They're going to bring it back. They're going to be fine. Polar Bears.
+2. I'm going to go ahead. You know what? Scott Garcia is going to get it done, man. He's going to reel this thing back in. I like what Jamar Johnson's doing. I got the Golden Eagles.
TJ and I are going to line up together on this one, right guard and left guard.
Yes, sir.
Wow, there is a swing.
Hey, you know what, man? If I'm lining up
Weak
with
side.
you, I'm going same side. I'll play tackle next
Weak
week.
side, strong side over here. That's good.
I play side and tight end all the time anyway. It doesn't matter. So, I'm going to go with Glen Oak because, number one, I'll be calling that game. I'm looking forward to doing that. And I will never be as good as the guy sitting next to me. But so if I fumble a lot, folks, please forgive me.
I'm going that way, I'll bet.
Yeah. And,
all right, so the Golden Eagles. All right, here we go. Perry and Hoover.
Ooh.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've seen them both, and cats off to Perry. Great game. I'll tell you what, Christian Ivonic went off with Louisville. Question to you guys, Ryan Hartshorn, was he something up there? I did not see his name in any of the scores. I'm sorry, he's injured?
Well, no, I'm asking.
Oh, I don't know. I'm asking you guys.
I didn't know.
I did not see
Apex
Ryan.
surgical injury update. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, as I told you guys, right, the Perry Jackson game, he sat out a few series, and I seen him with his back. He was leaning over, so I don't know. But hats off to Christian Ivonic last week. Great performance. I'm going to go with the Vikings at home, I believe.
You're going to change my pick if Hartshorn's not going.
Well, I don't know, brother. All I can tell you is what I saw.
Now that's speculation, right?
No, let's go this way before I pick.
Okay, so, I saw something this morning when I was looking at stats that he said Perry's averaging 100 yards a game passing. I don't know if that's correct. That's a lot for them, but this is a tough one. What are they playing?
They're playing at Hoover.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Vikings. Sorry, Coach Lakes. I end up seeing him tomorrow because I'm mentoring a young man over at Perry. So, I got to go with the Vikings.
What do you got, man?
Look at TJ hedging his bet. All right. Hoover's 2-4. I don't really see a quality win there yet. I think Perry's had a quality win over Central. I think Perry goes on the road and gets it done. I'm going Perry.
I'm with you, man. Tough team to stop when they run that wing T well. I'm going to take the Perry Panthers. All right, Orville is going to take on Northwest.
Oh, wow. Another tough one.
I'll go first this time.
Go ahead. Hit it.
I really, really want to pick Orville in this contest, but because they've been playing tough. But I gotta go. I think Northwest is more battle tested, and I think Northwest with Badger and Satterfield, I think they're going to get it done.
Well, I'll tell you what. Northwest, their wins have not been against overly strong opponents, right? That they've went through. They've got a great run. Satterfield tough. I think this is really going to define Orville where they're at in this season. But I can't go against Satterfield. The kid's too daggone tough. I like, and he's at home. Yeah. And my buddy Art Kali coaching out there on the defense. So Art, come on, get it done, brother. I'm going to go Indians.
I got the Red Riders.
Ooh, you're going Orville.
There we go.
All right, so we're going to play our strategy well then.
It's going to be a good game.
And all the jelly you can eat with that peanut butter, man. Smucker's.
Smucker's action.
Let me tell you what, that's some good jelly. Jelly. I'm going to go with Northwest. They're playing at home, and you and I need to divide and conquer anyway. So let's just do that.
It. Wow, right. Jeff, we got to start thinking some strategy.
No,
here.
We're good. Hey, we got a 4-point lead. We're up. We're -4. We're good.
Last words. Okay, go ahead, Teach.
Divide and conquer. Take me to East Lansing, baby. Malvern and Buckeye Trail. They're green and white, all right? Lined it up perfectly. Malvern, Buckeye Trail. Buckeye Trail, tough team. Malvern.
See, you're trying to do that again. I've got Malvern at 5-1. I got Buckeye Trail at 1-5. Malvern's only loss is to Sandy Valley, so that's a solid loss. I got Malvern on the road at Buckeye Trail.
I'm going to mimic my partner there on the skills team. Yep. I'm going Malvern.
Yeah.
All right, the Hornets get it done. Rod, you feel the same way? Yep. Hornets going to get it done.
The Green Hornets.
Okay, here's a good one for you. Aquinas is going to take on Southeast. Aquinas has struggled, but they're coached by Kevin Henderson in his first year. Great coach, legendary coach around the area, taking on Southeast. I'm going to go ahead. I feel that the Knights are going to get their first victory of the season.
I'm not familiar with Southeast. Where are they?
Going up there towards the Ravenna area.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'm just got to think this through.
I'm taking Southeast. Southeast 5-1. They got it rolling a little bit. Aquinas, as we know, is trying to rebuild. I mean, I watched Aquinas last year have like 12 guys on the sideline against Central, and kudos to those coaches over there for keeping it going and keeping that program and trying to move forward with it, but it's a struggle right now. I got Southeast.
And you picked...
I went with Aquinas.
I'll go with Southeast.
Okay, he likes the divide and conquer tactic, partner. What do you got?
They are definitely... Yeah, I'm going to go Southeast. I mean, I'll tell you what, I feel so bad. I looked at Minerva and Aquinas, right?
Yeah.
24 losses, 22 straight losses, respectively. Man, hats off to those kids and coaches, man, to keep coming out and fighting, man. God bless you. Hang in there, guys. It'll turn around, man.
That's all part of the game. That's why these kids get out there and they step up and they do it, and the coaches do the same thing because guess what? You never quit.
Yep. Never quit, baby. Amen.
Last ball game, Central and Mogador. That's at Central. Mogador coming in, feeling pretty good. Central.
I thought it was on the road. I thought it was at Mogador.
At Mogador is what I have.
I got at Mogador.
You sure about that? This is at Central.
This matters.
All right, I had Central at Mogador myself.
Let's get a clarification.
Central's taking on Mogador at Lowell Kleinfelder Field.
Okay. I'm taking Central either way. I know Mogador's 5-1. Central is kind of that, what we brought up earlier, that kind of Jekyll Hyde team. Yeah. Like they play real good and then a little bit suspect, but they got quality wins. They got quality losses. They've kind of been in the fire. I think my goddamn moron's going to pull them through. And
your nephew?
Yeah, the pseudo nephew. I'm taking Central.
I thought he said goddamn moron.
That's what I thought he said.
I thought there was an language.
I
thought we were
going
to beat.
I wanted to take Mogador, man. Now I feel like I got to take Central for Jesus.
I'm not going to say that at a Catholic school. Who you picking? Father over here hit me with it.
Mogador has been the kryptonite for Central. Now, I know that's been in the playoffs and different teams, different scenarios, but I got to go with Mogador here in this one.
Yes, ditto. I can't I looked at that this morning, and like I said, they're averaging 42.7 points a game. They're on a 3-game win streak, and I got to go with Mogador.
We're going to deploy your strategy. We're going to divide and conquer here, brother. I got to go with the Wildcats.
Wait.
What's that, Press?
You can't plagiarize strategies.
Yeah. Well, not plagiarizing.
I don't think you invented it, bro.
Yeah, I did.
I'm copying.
I think that was
a copy. It's not
I think it was General Patton.
Yeah,
hey, look,
I think it was General Patton that invented that one.
Trust me, I did invent it right here.
All right, well, we got our picks in, and Week 7 of Ohio High School football coming up here this week, so make sure to follow along with us. Go check us out at starkmedia.tkdssports.com for 3 streaming games. We'll have Jackson at Glen St. John's at Massillon, and we will also have Lake at McKinley. Again, a special shout-out to our friends here at Harmons Pub. Make sure to come down and patronize them. Great food, great friends, great beverages, everything you need from burgers, salads, pizzas, apps, and the wings. They're the best. Come check out our girls, Kayla, Heather. Check out my guys, Timmy and Matt. Great people here. So they are open until 11 p.m. Monday to Thursday, 11 to 12 Friday and Saturday. Kitchen closes at 9, so get your orders in and enjoy some great food here at Harmon's Pub. Special shout-out to Hilscher Clarke Electric Company, Eagles FOE 190. And again, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of Stark Media High School Football Weekly. For my guys, what any more final thoughts here?
Yeah,
heading into week
I
7?
just want to give a call out to my partner here, Jeff. His daughter's getting married Friday. Congratulations!
Hey, congratulations!
Thank you, brother.
And we
nice.
hope your toast speech doesn't last more than 30 minutes.
No, it's about 8 to 9 minutes. I'm
There you
good.
go.
She gave me 5. I'm taking 8.
Well, congratulations to you and your family.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations,
I told
Jeff.
them they're making a mistake. Put me on a mic on a Friday night. I'm used to 3-4 hours.
There you go.
And you're
Right.
giving me 5 minutes, but appreciate it, Rod.
Jim Bostic, you got a new addition to the family this week?
Absolutely. As soon as I leave here, guys, I'm headed down to to Athens, Ohio. So we're going to be joining a new little puppy to the fold. So
okay. I thought
7
you-
children,
Whoa.
3 puppies, 3 cats, and a goldfish. No goldfish, but still.
Wow.
Good stuff, man. All right, for my guys, Jim Bostic, Jeff Tyler, and Rod Strata, I'm TJ Downing saying so long until next week. Again, check us out this
Thank
Friday night, starkmedia.tkdssports.com. And week 7's up. Next week, we will be back breaking down 7, getting ready for number 8. Have a great weekend, everybody.
God bless.